Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I would like us to get started. I hope you're having a good morning and generally your week has been great. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mumbi. I am a community manager at Nairobi Garage, Spring Valley. For those who are not familiar with Nairobi Garage is a co working community, the coolest and the largest in Africa. And we are passionate about engaging with SMEs and looking for opportunities to support their growth and drive collaborative conversations forward. We were founded in 2014 as a spin off from an early stage seed fund. We have a total of three branches in Nairobi. So we have Nairobi Spring Valley, where I'm seated currently and where the workshop is taking place, Karen and Kilimani, and we have a fourth one coming up soon in Westlands. We offer flexible spaces that fit into your budget and provide your team with access to just not a workspace, but also a place to engage with Nairobi's business ecosystem. We host workshops regularly to expose our members and our community to the larger business community in Kenya and to explore areas of interest to entrepreneurs. So today I am pleased to have with us Soor, who is a partner at MBG Associates and Company. She started working with her family at an early age and joined full time after completing her studies. Deep's qualification is majorly in business management, but since the firm was based on financial bookkeeping and accounting, she switched gears after joining. Deep has done a lot of mid to large corporates until about 4 years ago when she realized that correct consulting and financial advisory were key to today's startups, and there was a huge lack of such services in the market. Her epiphany came after receiving a couple of calls from friends in the middle of the night in panic mode regarding the status of their business. So we felt it was relevant for her to come in and just speak to us and tell us the correct way to start up a business. I would like to encourage everyone to populate the polls as they come up, and let's have a very interactive session. Ask as many questions as possible. And yeah, let's get on with it. Karibu sana Dip. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Evelyn, for introducing me. As Evelyn said, I would like this to be a very interactive session. I will share with you a presentation for the basics of any startup in Nairobi, which is very minimal, to be honest with you. So there's very little I can say on that because a lot of the questions that I get and a lot of clients are very customized for individual needs. So maybe I think the best way would be for me to start with what we have here. Let me just share my screen. And actually, as we're doing this, I would request Evelyn to post the first poll question. And please, as we're running through the basics, it would be nice if you guys would populate it so that we can discuss. And also, as I'm going through with this, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, and as Evelyn said, we're going to populate the poll. We'll dwell more on that. The questions, I'm sure you will see, are not exactly something maybe any normal finance person will ask you. But like I said, for me, it's starting up a business is not just about starting up a business. It's about wanting to do something that is entirely yours, that you're passionate about, and it's something that should be very personal to you. So, and also something that reflects who you are, because then that's the only way that you would be successful going forward, especially if this is something that you want to do long haul. Anyway, we'll get to that as we populate those questions and answers. First things first, as we say, I don't know if we can, let me just share my screen here. Okay, so here we are. Let's start. So starting out. So you've decided you want to start. You have a hobby maybe. There's something that you are planning on doing. It's an idea you've had in mind. Maybe you want to do something on the weekends. It could make you a bit of money on the side. Where do we start? All right. So in case you feel you can't see me, or maybe if I'm sharing the screen right now, if you can't see it, maybe you could let us know. Um, right. So we were at the name search. They say the name of your business. There'll be it's everything on a business. I say it says everything when it comes to your personality, what your business is about. It's basically what the first thing that everyone sees when they want to engage with you, or when you're trying to market your products, or when you're trying to market yourself. So it's very important to have that mindset of what would you like your legacy to be called. Let's put it this way. In this term, your brand name and your trade names can be different. So that is also one thing to consider, because sometimes you want to have a fun, quirky name for your brand. But that doesn't necessarily mean that professionally and on invoices that name would look good. So, for example, we have the producer of Quenchi Juice in Kenya. The company trade name is actually Excel Chemicals Limited. So, who would have thought that Excel Chemicals would be producing juice? But it works. So yes, the trade name is basically the name that you register your company on. That is what all your professionals, all your legal matters, all your invoices. So that's the professional backend of it, whereby your brand name can be fun, can be as interactive, and you can even have multiple brand names if you wish to. Usually, the name search is done through an e-citizen link, which will be shared with you. And I'm sure if you're a member or if you're a Kenyan citizen or not, and if you're doing business in Kenya, you have to have that account for e-citizen, which is where all the businesses are linked. Even if you don't have a business set up at the moment, it's the same portal through which you do your IDs, your immigration. So that's the one portal that we have. That's where we do the name searches. We'll give you a dot. So once you do your application on that, you usually have an intended name. You have to think about that, a short description of the name, and the legal fees for the search. That's the first step. You do your application. You wait for them to acknowledge it, and you wait for them to approve it. And most of the times it is approved. Sometimes it is not. Be creative in your name. Mostly the only time you don't approve it is when there's a second or a third entity with almost a similar or the same name. So be creative, think it through, and it shouldn't be a problem. And obviously, once you have a name, then I have a lot of clients tell me, "Yay, we go party," and I say, "No, we haven't even begun. Let's go through our business registration process." So now you've decided a name, it's been approved. We're doing this. Next step, registering your business in a legal manner, which makes it a legal entity. It's done through the same e-citizen portal, and it's basically what happens is nowadays the directors' accounts are linked with your businesses. So it's not that your business goes through you go through your business. Two separate entities connected by the same person. Most companies are recommended to be registered as limited liability companies, also called private limited companies in Kenya, in Nairobi. And this gives you leeway with the taxation, which makes it easier on the legalities. And going forward, depending on how you do, whether you want to turn it into a partnership or that, it makes sense to have that in process. Once the name is through, you've applied for the registration process, given all the documents that are required, it's a very easy process. You receive a certificate of incorporation, which gives you your business number, which is basically what you will use for all and every legal matters, apart from the PIN number. PIN number, here's the fun part. So now, name search is done, you're good, you're starting the business. We want to do this, your business is registered, you have your legal documents in place. Next thing. No, not yet, we're not parting. This is the fun part. Here we are. I think everybody knows this. sign and everybody gets scared of it, and that is my reaction to whenever I share that sign. So I'm always like, where did everyone go? Because I know it's scary, I know it's intimidating. It's not, I promise you. Let's check. So, tax registration. So the iTax portal is basically where now you have all your taxes, all your um, annual returns for the companies, all the legal matters in terms of KRA. This is the portal that handles all of that. It is not that scary, I promise you. You simply go through the portal that is listed there, which will send out on the other ones. So, as they say, individuals for VAT, any individual or companies that have taxable goods worth 5 million and above are subjected to it. PAY is chargeable, as they say, as this is. Those are the two main components that you start with. The other statutory taxes, NSSF, NHIF, they all come as and when you grow. If you have staff, that comes through, and those are things that we can look at going forward. So yeah, so it's not that scary, guys. It's good, and I think from here, let's have a look if you guys have populated the poll. Shall we? All right. So okay. So here we are. We're populating. I'm just looking at the polls to see what we have. We have 7 votes. And here we are. So interesting. We, on the first poll, which was our question of what would you prefer, still or sparkling water, we have 57% on still and 43% on sparkling, which is interesting because the reason I ask this question always is let's think about the two aspects of it. So, still water's amazing. Hydrates you, is normal. You open a bottle, nothing's going to happen. You pour it, it's still, it's standard, it's stagnant. Sparkling, on the other hand, you never know because it could be a warm bottle that you're opening, it could spray on you, it could be a bottle that was left open in transport and all of a sudden the sparkle will be lost. Are you willing to take that risk? Are you willing to, go beyond the conventional? So this is why I always ask my clients this question, and it's interesting to see that we have more still than sparkling. The idea here is when you're running a business and when you're running your own business, it's different in comparison to when you're doing a job or when you're working under someone because the risk is more on you rather than on the directors or on the people owning the business. This is where maybe it becomes more volatile. This is where you have to start thinking a certain way, thinking of things that you might not think will happen. All the risks, all the case scenarios, everything. You have to expand that. You have to broaden your mind. You have to think outside the box, literally. I'm not saying you can't do that when you're doing a job, but then there you're working in a department, you're working for something, you're working for something in particular. When you run your own business, you will end up doing everything. I'm not saying that you have to, but yes, components of it you will learn over the years. You will be a salesperson, you will be a finance person, you will be marketing, you will be HR. At some point, you will have to touch on all of that. That's where that thing comes. Are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable being not fully integrated, but at least involved to some extent? Are you comfortable learning those things? Because it's a very important part of any business owner to know. If not, you don't have to be a professional. I'm not saying that you will not have the help. Of course, that's what we're here for. Professionals are there, but are you willing to maybe step into something that is not the norm for you? Are you willing to wake up one day and think, okay, fine, this is the case scenario I had, this is what I had thought about, but it's completely different. That's where we ask that, and that also sort of tells you how much risk you're willing to take, how much deep you can go, and to what extent you can expand your own business. The next one we have is wow. Okay, this is a good one because we asked quality over quantity, and I am actually very, very happy that we have 100% on quality, which is, I believe, one of the things that is very important. Quantity, yes. Quantity is short-term goals. Quantity is is you get this, you have it, and then if it's gone, it's gone. If it's not, it's not. Quality is difficult. It's consistency. It's compromises. It's commitment, and that's when you get to it because it doesn't come easy. And I'm glad that we have that percentage. But yes, here's another aspect to think about. When you decide I want to do a business, regardless of whether it's a small hobby or it's a huge startup or it's something that you're partnering with someone, always think along the lines of why am I doing what I'm doing? Do I want this to be a short term, 6 months, I'm bored, I want to do something, I want to get out, maybe try, test the waters, and then that's it? Or is this something that I want to grow old with? Is this something that I want to turn into, how do you say, a legacy or a retirement plan? Let's put it this way. And that's where the two come in. Funnily enough, on both cases, quality is key, consistency is key, and you have to be committed. So if you are willing to wait, if you're willing to put in the effort and the time for something better or something good, you have I'm not saying that the guys who want the short-term goals will not be successful, but there's a higher chance of success if you're thinking of doing it for the long run. If you're thinking of turning this into something that you want to keep going, or if it's something close to your heart, you want, your generations to sort of be a part of it, quality is key. I think that is a very important factor when thinking of or even wanting to your own businesses. I think the other, any questions? We'll just come in.
Yes, we have questions.
Yes.
Yes, so we have a question from Wangari. Thank you very much. So she's asking, could you please speak on registration of the company limited by guarantee? Expound on it.
Company limited by
Guarantee. And also we have another question from Omboyi who's asking, how would you best advise someone to come up with a memorable business name stroke company name?
Okay. All right. So we'll start with the business name. Yeah. So where you're saying to come up with a memorable business company name. Wow. Okay. So an example for ours, I'll just give you an example for what we did for MBJ. When you say memorable, some names will appeal to a certain kind of people, some names will not. So that's a gamble you take. In terms of a company name being, it has to be short. That's what I always say. It has to be short and catchy. It has to be something that someone can relate to. The logo is also very important here. So I'll give an example of the MBJ. We had an initial company, Mansur Trading, which was started up. That was the M. BJ are the initials in our family. So so sometimes it's not something that you think about that somebody will relate to personally, but it works. It has a good ring to it. It's short, and that's how it is. So when you're coming up with your business name, I think you should think about, number one, the first thing is, what are you doing? If you're obviously, like I said, if you're doing something in terms of creativity, in terms of that, you have to gauge that. It has to be catchy. It has to be something that you would want to, how do you say, you want to engage with. It would have to be something whereby you have a personal connection with, because then you put in that effort there. In terms of that, I think the other way to do it is if you look around and see a lot of people go with very generic names. You don't want to do that. Have something different. If you're looking at, let's say, a flower shop, everyone thinks, oh, garden, horticulture, this. Why not get out there, think something else. Think, okay, so this is flowers. What about going to the other aspect of it? What about thinking about landscaping? Think instead of homes and gardens and all of that, maybe you can say, hey guys, we're call it monster or call it something that relates to but is not yet completely, the norm. So that also gives you an added edge in your company name so that people now remember that, okay, this is a company, does this, but it's quite different because that name is there. The other one was, sorry, I can't see the question.
So the other question was, please speak on registration of company limited by guarantee.
Okay. When you say speak on, registration is, so the registration process, if that's what you mean, is exactly the same. When you go onto the e-citizen portal registration process, they ask you to choose what kind of business entity you would want to register. So limited company by is the private limited companies that we're talking about.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So it's the same. It's the same as a private limited company, and the registration process is that. Okay, so I didn't understand what you're saying. It's just the process we need to know, or could you maybe expand on the question? Where I can't see the question.
So Wangari, maybe you can expand on the question of what you'd like exactly for her to ask about it. But in the meantime, we can move someone has to another question. Someone has asked, what should one do when they've already chosen a name, used it on social media, made money, and have customers, but cannot find the same name when they search for official registration? I guess this goes out to some of us who just start things off as hobbies, open an IG page, a Facebook page, and you garner up numbers and sell. So what happens when now you want it to become a proper company?
So then what you do is you turn that chosen name into your brand name, and you have to come up with a new trade name. Or you simply have a difference of. So for example, let's say you want your company to be called, Red Lady. Okay, or your brand name is whatever you've registered on Instagram or on social is called Red Lily. You go online, the company name Red Lily, Enterprises Red Lily, Company Limited is not available. So what you can do is you can call it RL, trading or RL Ventures as the trade name. Red Lily stays as your brand name. So I think that would be the best way to counter effect that, because you've already, well, if you've made money and have customers, you should have registered it first, by the way. But yeah, since you already started with that name, you can still keep it as your brand name. That's the best option. And sometimes it's even better. Personally, I feel to have a different brand name and a different trade name. So that, yes, so that would be the way we do it.
Maybe can you explain why it's better for you to have a different brand name and a different trading? What are the advantages? What, as you say, what makes it better?
Okay, it makes it better because so like I said, your trade name has to be, I feel, it's on your invoice. It has to be a nice sort of professional name. And then with your brand names, number one, you can have multiple brand names. If you have multiple products, you don't have to have just one name for that. You can do that. But if you register your company based on the one product that you did, how would you then, it sort of encloses you in a box, which you don't want to do. So when you have a trade name, for example, let's say, like I said, Excel Chemicals Limited, you know, that's it, that goes on, it's a professional name in that, whereby they have so many other, they have quencher, they have go juice, they have fruit, they have, so you can expand on that side of it, which is why it's better. But if you register one product as your company name, it's sort of the person relates to just that product and just your company. The other products will not be related, whereby someone will look at a product, want to turn it or flip it or kind of see who is the company producing, and that makes it easier for you also over time to maybe rebrand when you want to change your product names or when you want to add on. So at least your trade name is there, it's sorted, it's done. So we have another question. Registration is okay. Thank you. So if that's clarified, if there's anything else you need to know, please let me know on the limited by guarantee. We have Joseph who's asking us what types of businesses are there, and is it advisable to register a limited company or just run with the business name? And how long should one operate under a business name? Well, Joseph, actually no. You can't. You're actually technically not supposed to just run with a business name unless you're doing a very small home-based, through friends and everything. That is all right. But once you decide to, I actually recommend it. I know it's a bit, how do you say, intimidating, or you get a bit scared when we say register a business because you think, oh my God, this is a commitment, and I'm going to have tax, and I'm going to have to pay taxes, and these guys are going to come after me. But no, I believe that once if you're running a business already with a name, you need to register it. Whether you're doing it from home, whether or not, have that done, have that in place. You do not necessarily have to bring it out. You don't have to trade in that business. But number one, what happens is, like like you were asked about the name, you are sure that tomorrow, if you do want to expand on it, you have that set. Your how do you say, your entity is now running. And the other thing is that if and when you do sometimes get, for example, you're running a business name, you have it, you're doing that, and then you get a client who wants to give you, but then registration will not happen overnight. You might lose out on business based on that. So the types of businesses that you can register, I'll just go back to that, is you can do a partnership, you can do sole proprietorship, you can do a private limited company. Now, okay, maybe I can expand on that here. So proprietorships and partnerships, the taxation legalities, because of the way the companies are set up in the registrar of companies, tomorrow adding on people, having that leeway, it becomes a bit difficult. While having a private limited company, it's easier because you have the ordinary shares, you have the shareholding, it's easy to add on. It's more manageable to then, how do you say it, trade under that company. Unless the business is solely based on, like, it is a partnership, it is a consulting, or that it is sole proprietorships, the liabilities are a bit more complicated, so that's why you just do that. But yeah, so those are the types of businesses. And yes, it is very, very advisable to please register a limited company. Don't just run with the business name. And when you say how long should one operate, I believe, okay, when you are doing, like I say, when you have this idea, or when you come up with how do you say it, an idea sort of to start up, and you're doing something, I think within the first 8 months of you running this business, so to speak, I believe should be a good gauge for you to know that, okay, now maybe it's time, we need to register and we need to start. Because anything up beyond that, and if you're keeping up and if you're consistent and you're committed, is technically a business. So yes, I would highly recommend that you register within the first 8 months of you trying out your business name, starting out, maybe if you're doing it online. Yeah. So that would be good. We have our polls. Yeah. This is another fun one that we were doing. So we had asked, how often do you get bored with items in your life? It could be your phone, your jewelry, your clothes, or the larger items as well, your cars, your house decors, and all of that. And for me, I will pick never, which is interesting because we have neutral at 50%, often at 38, and never at 13. Okay, when we say never, it's obviously there's certain aspects like mobile phones, technology, all of that you have to upgrade over time. Now, the reason why, again, I always ask this question to anyone who comes to me and says, okay, if I want to start up this and I want to do this, is related to the quality and the quantity and the commitment and the consistency of. So here, if you are the kind of person or personality, again, not sure, I'm not saying that you would be successful, but it's just that there's a certain way that we gauge of how, or you have to think of it in a certain way, how you would then take this business and use it. Because a business is, actually on this poll, let me flip it around. A business is its own entity. You always have to think of it this way. Imagine you bringing home, for the animal lovers out there, I don't know how the other guys will take it, but imagine you're bringing home your first puppy. Literally. It's sleepless nights. It's, okay, is he going to puke on the carpet? Is he going to, am I going to train him? Is he going to learn? Is he going to listen? Or she, whatever you prefer. It's the same way with the business. So there has to be that commitment, there has to be the consistency, there has to be you wanting to do this. fully, knowing that, going forward, there could be things that might not work your way or might not maybe happen the way you intend them to, and still keep going. Are you willing to do that? So here, because we're neutral, I agree, okay, 50%, because, like I said, larger items, maybe not. I like that because that also means that a lot of people draw the line between what they can and what they cannot. But some days that line becomes blurred. There are instances, for example, I remember, actually last year would be a good example to take. Everybody knew, COVID struck, businesses were struggling. I had about 5 clients who were at the verge of closing down because they didn't know whether this was going to happen or not, whether they could even manage. The mental stress in itself was so much that they just didn't want to anymore. And I also personally, I think, came to a point whereby I was like, okay, you're running this business, you're working hard, and yet at the end of the month, it's always a thing. So some days you get this thing of, is it worth it? Is this gonna work? Is this even having run these businesses for 7, 8 years, it's you come to that point, and this is where this question or this how do you say this thought process comes through. If I would be the kind of person who would drop things at a moment's notice just because it's not working or just because, then to be honest, I would never come to this point of, and the same thing I tell my clients. I'm not saying you have to be 100% there. I'm not saying you have to be always innate and but you have to have some form of commitment. You have to have some form of a mindset whereby you know that this is not a 2-day thing, this is not a 3-day thing. This is something that you have to work on. This is something that you have to put in. You put in more than you get out initially. The rewards at the end of it are 100 times better than doing it for anyone else. I assure you that as well. But here, in terms of you getting bored with it, yes, I this is why we always ask that. Ah, my neutral. Oh, the neutral's going up to 56%. Nice. Okay. So there we go. So that's another thing that's the key. I think for me, for my clients, the key here is that how much do you really want this to work? You see, we have a lot of the market right now flooding with a lot of guys online. If you go online, there's businesses, there's people doing, and it's the same thing as well. And I'm not against it. I don't mind having 8 people doing the same thing. But what makes you different, and why would you want to do it? So these are the sort of questions I think you have to ask yourself before you even decide. If it's a hobby, it usually works better maybe because you're doing it because you like doing this thing, and that is also another important thing. You have to like what you do. You can't decide one day, oh, because this is working out for this person, and I want to do this thing. There's so many little nitty-gritties. I think as much as this was a finance workshop, I think this is going to turn into to be more of a sort of like a mindset. This is why I was really wanted to do this, because yes, I do the finance and it's very important. Please don't hire a good person and make sure you follow up. Very important backbone of doing that. But I think for me, before the finance is the mindset for the startup. I think that is what we really need to look at. Everybody wants to do business nowadays. Everyone wants to do their own thing. It's great. I think once everyone, at least once, should try this. Should try to do something, be it a hobby, be it for a week, to make something. Start with producing it, marketing it, doing it. It opens up a whole new world for you. It teaches you a lot about yourself as a person. It shows you, it actually opens your mind. It broadens your horizons. It does a lot. But also, it's not something for everyone. So we have to also take that into consideration. Finance-wise, yes. The reason why I started doing or started focusing on the startups was, as I mentioned, I had a friend call me at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night saying, I just, logged in and everything's a mess and I have penalties and all of this. And that's where it started on the finance side of it, yes, because I did one and then I did the other and the other. But also, I see that consistency because in all of the clients that I have with me till date, who are 4 or 5 years old and beyond, consistency and a commitment is what is there. So I think for me, this should be something that you have to consider before doing this. Okay, I'm just going to go back to the question, sorry, because we got diverted there. So just what you say, should I choose between a higher risk or lower risk business? Suppose my business provides less income than I expected. How long should I stick with it? Oh, here we go. Here we are. Here's the question that. So let's start with the first one. You said, should I choose between a higher risk or a lower risk business? What business is high risk? What business is low risk? Okay, so people will argue to tell me that a high risk business might be something that you're putting more capital into, or maybe it's something that the market is saturated but you want to do, and the low risk may be something you start small. The risk, to be honest with you, is there in each and every um, business or entity or project that you start to do. It could be as small as baking cookies and selling them from home, or as large as now doing catering for 200 people. So I think the choice here is null and void because, yes, start small, I would say that. So when you talk about risk factor, start small. Dip your feet in only that much that you can handle at any given time. And yeah, so that's where the risk factor comes in. And you said your business provides less income than you expected. Um, okay, I understand it. And how long should you stick with it? There is no business that I personally know that made money in the first 3 months. The first 3 months of a business, unless you're doing something very, 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 how do you say it, different, is the first 3 months of any business, you will not reach your target. You will not. So even in your mind, your projections, your cash flows, what you budgeted, what you've done, there'll be a lot of ins, there'll be a lot of outs. So you will not hit it. If it provides less income, then you project in, again, the gauge is between 8 to 12 months. If it's still not running the figures that you had expected to, then I think you should start considering. But you should, how long should you stick with it is, that's no gauge. The idea there then is now to start seeing what is not working. Is it that you're not marketing right? Is it the product? Is it that? That's how you start. And then maybe if after doing all of that and still and looking at all the aspects and going through, you still tell me that you are not hitting the figures that you are wanting to, another 12 months, then I think you should either consider switching or maybe, yeah, just closing that altogether. But I don't recommend that. And I feel I'm not the kind of person who wants to say that you should stick to it 2 years and close, you stick to it. No. I believe anything and everything can work if you want to make it work. So, yes, start small, be consistent, and yes, do your finance right, your projections right, have a good team. The other thing I think here that I would go with is having a good team beside you, apart from yourself, is very, very important. Knowing who is beneficial to you, who you need, who you don't need, is also very helpful. And you also have to sort of keep that in mind. Nobody can actually build, like they said, Rome wasn't built in a day, but you can't be. No man is an island. You can't do it on your own. So make sure that when you're starting this up, keep in mind, what do I need? A lot of my clients have come up to me and said, we never thought we needed the financial side of it because we could do it ourselves. I highly recommend that. You can do it yourself, but you do need that guidance. You do need that. Same with marketing. Same with maybe, things like the creative side of it and that. Nowadays with the internet and nowadays with having all these apps and all of this on board, it's very easy for us to actually do everything ourselves. I sometimes find myself doing the same thing. I want to do my branding myself. I want to do the designing myself. I want to, source things. I want to do my figures. And then, yeah, you realize it's very much possible to do it, but there's just so much you can achieve by doing it all yourself. So you have to Have that mindset. It also comes to the point of cash flow. Yes, when you're starting out, obviously you have limited cash flow. Maybe some of you have, you've saved up, you have the funds, but even then, using that money wisely is very important, because that will be the base of what you sort of start with. That will be what that'll actually how you spend your initial capital will then be the project of how you are going to go forward. So you have to be careful. You have to think about that side. What do you really need? Do you at that point? Okay, I think the best thing is I'll give you an example. So I had someone come up and tell me they wanted to start up a small restaurant, a small cafe, right? So I said, okay, perfect. Let's do this. Let's start up with the basics. And they go, oh no, I want top-notch quality, equipment. So we were like, wait, hold up, take a step back here. Do we need that? Do we really? No. You have a budget, yes, and we want to do this, yes. But can we do that? That's not what was needed. So over time, yes. You think sometimes you need that, but you don't. You have to do your research, get out there, look at other businesses, dwell, ask the questions, um, think about it 100 times before you say, yes, okay, I want to do this. That is why I think today, like I said, this the workshop seems to have taken a different stance. But I think as much as finance is very important, and I am obviously, my company does finance, so I'll say you need to keep that to us to do. But before that, I believe yes, you have to have these other things in place before you not even start thinking, okay, now what next? So success, its efficiency and success start there with first of all that mindset. I want to do this. I like doing it. How much commitment can I give to it? In terms of that, I know I keep saying commitment. Let me give you another example. I have a client who is doing a project very, very, very close to her heart, but it's not paying the bills because obviously the things we do, we like doing it. The same way it's a startup, you're possibly doing something on the side, it's not working out. Same thing. So the questions, I think I would list down the questions in terms of this before you even think of choosing a name, registering your business, or even doing it as a business, or even thinking of doing a startup is number one. How much do you really want to do this, or is it peer pressure? Because I know nowadays there's a lot of people also coming up to say, hey, it's good if you have a backup plan, or it's good if you have something to do on the side. No, no, no. Is that what you're doing, or is this really something that you're serious about? Is this something that is going to be you and yours, and so that's one thing before you even decide, because yes, as much as I was saying registering and you should do that, it's still a commitment. Once it's done, there's still certain things, certain legalities that you will have to take care of. That's one thing. Second thing is your mindset. Are you willing to? A job is 9 to 5. You clock in at 9, you go, you're doing your things, everything is sorted, you do 5 o'clock, you clock out. Maybe you'll do overtime, but that's it. With the business, your mind, your set, it's 24 hours. You will wake up at 4 in the middle of the night and you'll be like, okay, I did not do this, or ooh, I had an idea. Or so all of that comes into place being in success. If you're gonna get frustrated and if you're gonna get overwhelmed by all of this, then yes, you must consider how much and how you want to do this. So yes, please, before even thinking about the startups, which I am very, very, very for, I feel that everyone, like I said, should try this. Be it small, be it large, be it big. I personally recommend that you do. But yes, please have that mindset and think about all these things before you decide to. We have a question that says, how will I define success after the first year? Okay, this is good. So, success could be in a lot of ways. For me, personally, success means I am, number one, I have gained traction, obviously. Figures, yes, I have to make a profit. I mean, you could like what you do, you could be doing it well, but if you're not really, like I said, the turnover is not coming up and you're not beginning to see that add on, then yes, it's not something that you would define as successful. So I will give you 3 pointers of that definition. Success means one, you look back 6, 7 months, you look back where you started, your following, your people, your because obviously I'm thinking or I'm guessing that whatever you will do as a startup will be something that you want, something that will be of quality, something that will be of commitment. That gain of rapport, people liking it, people telling you you're doing this thing, people responding in a positive way to you, for me that is one thing gauged as success. That is for me successful. I'm successful in doing this. If someone, or let's say 80% of my clients tell me you're doing a good thing and I like what you're doing. Secondly, of course, is the figures. You have to make a profit, like I said, 8 months, something small, break even, but it should not be in the negative. That's successful, obviously. Third is, again, personal goals. So when you start up, just the idea of doing a startup is sort of like setting a personal goal for yourself because you're getting into something, you want to do this, so you're setting markers, you're setting something for you to do. Did you achieve it? And obviously, as you start, I'm sure you will say, okay, fine, in 3 months I want this to happen, in 6 months I want this to happen. What percentage of the goals that you had, in terms of maybe monetary, in terms of self, how do you say it? I would say self satisfaction, not the correct word, but that I use that for myself. So, how much of that percentage, in terms of that thing, have you personally achieved? If it's 60% and above, you're successful. I didn't say 50% and above because I might own was pick. So maybe maybe I should say that, maybe if it's 50% and above, yes, those three things. Your personal satisfaction, your personal goals, how percentage you reached, definitely the figures. You cannot be making a loss and the capital has to come back. And yes, how people now respond to your product or your service that you're giving. I think those would be my three gauges of that. So yeah, so I think I think we'll just, I'll end by saying yes. I would recommend that you all think about this. I would recommend that everyone decides to do this, to at least, like I said, in a small scale or a large scale. But once, try it. It's fun. It's rewarding. But yes, please think about all the factors. Think about everything that it entails. It's not easy, but I do assure you that running your own business, having this thing that you do, is so rewarding. It's so satisfying at the end of the day that all the negatives of it get null and void by then. So yeah, I hope it's been helpful. I hope I've been helpful to everyone out there today, and we'll share the details if anyone needs to reach out for any other consultations, anything. I think Raj will be more than willing to share my contacts. Thank you all so much for your time, and we'll hope to hear from you back.
Okay. So thank you to the Soor for that. Thank you for the Soor for that awesome session. Wasn't it informative? And thank you for all those who attended. You each get a free day pass to use at any of our spaces. Expect something in our email by end of week. Dipsud has also extended her consultation services with all those who have attended, and she will be giving discounts. Just reach out to her and she'll be able to do that. We'll put that also in the email that we will send out. She has also given us gift hampers on the same from MBJ Products, and they will be here at Spring Valley. So next week, pop in, just say that you attended the workshop and you're here to use your free day pass and also take the gift hampers. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye bye.